Alrighty. Welcome to the Giants SC podcast. Yep, we've had a rebrand. I'm your host for forever, but definitely for 2025. Caleb Reedy, coach of the Southside Soldiers. With me, two-time champion and favourite for the 2025. We've got Pete Moore of the Welsh Wizards. Pete, how are you, mate?
Is that what we do these days? Whenever you say two-time champion, is that a double bicep? Is that what the thing kids are doing these days, or what?
It might be what they're doing in Wales, mate. I don't know anybody that's doing it here.
Yeah, right. I was straight off with the racism. Great. Well done, mate.
Yeah.
You wait until I try and pronounce some of the Kazi Bros names later on. Then it'll be unintentional racism coming out twofold.
Mate,
anyway.
You're lucky we don't have Welsh names on this podcast because no one would be able to say that, even you. I've seen some of those Welsh names and it's horrific.
Yeah, I know. So I will apologise to all the Kiwis out there. I am trying, but like Caleb said, try pronouncing the Welsh names, and if you can, then I'll accept it. So, but anyway, mate, we digress, right? I'm good, mate. I'm good.
We digress.
Good time of the year. I love this time of the year as Supercoach, man. Changing your teams every 2 minutes, trying to work out what's going on, trying to predict the future, even though none of us know. Yeah, it's good fun, man. I enjoy it.
Very good, very good. Guys, just a little bit of backstory. Pete is one of the few people I do know in the Supercoach Giants chat. We played together in 2011, Pete. And
yeah.
He was also the MC at my failed marriage. So unlucky, Pete, for that one.
I take full responsibility. See, if you had just had those strippers at your backs, it could have all gone very different. And since it didn't work out anyway, you might as well have got them.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Anyway, can your kid hear?
Little one's fine.
Okay,
we're not worried about that, mate.
Cool, mate.
Anyway, welcome. We're doing a Giants Supercoach podcast. Look, why are we doing a podcast for that is just Giants based, guys? It's there are lots of podcasts out there, and they're cool, and you can go and listen to them. And look, to be honest with you, they're probably smarter guys than me and Pete. Ours, we do a bit of like player profile-ish stuff, Pete, but we also do, matchups and kind of check in on the comps and see how they're going, mate.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest, mate. I just enjoy it, whether it's the banter side of it or whether you get other people's opinions on stuff. And we actually went away from it a little bit last year, and I gave you the feedback. I actually missed it. I do quite enjoy listening to the boys having a bit of a yarn and a bit of banter and going on with what's up, and actually get a bit of insights from getting people's opinions. I've borrowed a couple of people's opinions. I've led people down the wrong path, which Craig likes to remind me, unintentionally, but I've done it. but it's all good fun, right? It's all good. It's all good. I enjoy it. It's part of the parcel.
Yeah. And what Pete's talking about is obviously I invite lots of different people over. Obviously, Pete's one of my go-to guys. He's been on a few times, but we've heard from all people, great and small. Ricky, one of our commissioners, has been on it. We've also had Wooden in Phoenix on it a couple of times. So we just want to see what people are thinking, and we have a really great time. Look, I suppose we'll have a quick chat about Giants. Basically, it started with just 20 of us. Pete was in some of the earlier numbers, and basically me and a couple of the other guys, me, Ricky, Dale, we came up with an idea of, geez, it'd be really cool if you could like move up and down grades, if there was a bit more on the line. Because, you get to those dog days in, August, well, late July, August, and guys just start dropping off. They stop playing because, there's nothing to play for. We really wanted a comp that got everyone to link in. And I suppose in 3 years, we've gone from 20 players to 100, Pete.
Yeah, it's been good, mate. It's been good to see the chat grow. It's been good to see all the different teams come in. I'll be honest. People like Slippery for me, Martin. I didn't even know the bloke existed. And then he comes on our chat and he's, because of that, I've listened to him on other podcasts. It's just a little community that we sort of created for ourselves, and I quite enjoy it. It's good, mate. I've said enjoy it about 4 times already, so I guess you know where my head's at.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of the only people that actually likes Martin being in this comp, mate. Everyone's messaging me, why did we let a previous champion in? And he wiped the floor overall. But, mate, For me, it's we want the best players in here, and it makes the comp better, it makes me better, and I think everybody enjoys the competition. So that's what we've got.
Well,
So
mate, look at
yeah,
the look how they do it in America with all the fantasy NFL, right? They have proper like draft parties and everything. People come from all over. It's a big deal, and I sort of feel like this is trending in that direction. And if it stays how it is, it's awesome. If it grows even bigger, great. There's no rules to this, right? We'll just see what it goes, see what demand is, and just roll with it.
yep. No, I'm with it, mate. I'm with it. And my missus loves me spending hours and hours of time on this. She's like smiling in the background, loving this. So, it's great times. And the less quality time we have together is no. Anyway, moving on.
Don't pretend
Look,
like you don't do
we'll
this at
jump
work.
straight in.
Let's go.
All right, okay. We're going to move on, and we're going to go straight into the biggest change for the Supercoach and for all the comps, the flex position. Okay, flex position in the comp. Pete, maybe you break us down what the flex is, mate, and basically why it's changed, throwing everything on its head.
Okay, so disclaimer. I've read about it and I've listened about it. So, but if I've got it wrong, I apologize. But to my understanding, it's a way to try and compensate for all the people getting those shithouse scores as a result of the concussion. So essentially, you can bring in a player from any position of whatever value you want that player to be, depending on what tactics you want to use, which I'm sure we'll discuss later, to compensate if your lowest scoring or to replace your lowest scoring player on your team at the time, which is going to take the assumption of he was a concussion-based low score. How do I go?
Yep.
Is that essentially it?
So basically, it takes a flex. If they score more than your lowest player, they're in and your lowest player's out, whether they're a starting player or a bench player. So you'll pick your 17 as normal plus your flex. Your flex takes over the lowest score. That does not include the AEE. So if you get a player who scores 0, you'll still pick up an auto emergency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Now, and the reason why I like it is Supercoach has always got that element of luck. There's an element of skill, but there's an element of luck. And now it's a little bit less luck and a little bit more skill because you've got more control over that additional player who's going to compensate for that player that is normally projected an 80 but gets a 3. So I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, look, I sit on the fence with it. I feel like some of the rules that they're bringing in are making it easier for a reason. I like the element factor where you don't know what's going to happen with some of the players, but I get why it's been brought in, why people like it. The unfortunate part of it is the system cannot tell if it's a concussion, which means that if I'm playing you and you just happen to have a really bad front rower, we know that he's just not going to score like 10 points off the bench. Basically, your flex is in your 17 and your lowest scoring players out. Tactically, putting no money into their front row or no money into their hooker spot because they know that the 17th player is going to be their flex player. But we can talk about that later. Obviously, there are a couple of players which are going to come to mind for that spot anyway. So, we'll go to that in a sec. Yeah, all right. Before we get into a bit of, some interesting stuff around Vegas in the first round, mate. You've been around the Supercoach Giants for a while now, mate. Who do you like in the first grade competition? Who do you like for the title? Can't pick yourself, and why?
$1 billion, I think. He came close. $1 billion
babies.
Yeah, he came close. Look, he came up when he was in the reserve. Was it reserve grade at the time? Second grade, whatever it was. He came up like a bat out of hell on that one, and he didn't mince his words in any way when he came straight at the top grade. He was straight at the top. One more year under his belt. He's just shown all the promise there is. I think you ranked him second, beyond myself, which is a crap call, but I'll take it. But yeah, so I think I don't see any reason from what little I know so far why he can't take it out on the trajectory that he's been on so far.
Yeah, look, and obviously, we're guessing here, aren't we? Because you just don't know, and there are that many mistakes made early and late, that we just don't know how the players are going to react and how the coaches are going to react. Jason Ward, Boone, all the babies, he's been in the comp for this will be his third year. First year he was
Yeah,
straight in the first grade because we had a player drop out, and he came fourth. And he lost in the grand final. So
there
hey,
you
he's
go. So
yeah, he's a big
close but
shot.
not quite. Yeah, yeah.
Look, yeah, yeah. I kind of like due he won reserve grade. He flew through that whole that league in second grade. And he's come up in the first grade, so I like him for a big shot at the title, but time will tell. Who do you like to get demoted?
I've got two, right? And I'm going to say the most controversial one first. You frozen there, mate. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Keep going, mate.
Yeah, cool, man. So the first one and is extremely controversial, but only based on the information that I've got right now. It's going to be Martin Biggs, right? It's going to be slippery, and here's why. Awesome player, love what he says. He doesn't have much input, but when he does, I listen. But he's very open that he's a overall player. And if you're an overall player in a comp that's dedicated to head, you may get unstuck.
Yep.
Now, he's probably got the pedigree within his team to carry him through. But around the buys, around the, I don't know. If you're going for overall, it's a different game to head these days. The other people, just for shits and giggles, is one of the people I do know in the league from way back in the day is Blake Nichols, right? And he is exactly the type of person to be at the pub on a midday, be 10 Jackson Cokes deep by 4 in the afternoon, and make some crazy trades. And next year, who knows what's going on. So, that's probably a stronger case for someone like that going down, making those. Do you know what? On Friday afternoon, I wasn't going to do that trade. By 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, it's in the bank and I've already got 150 locked in. Don't worry about it. See you later. So there's someone like that could quite easily in this league, and the standard it's showing, could quite easily go down if they take that mindset with it. But yeah, I just don't know in a head-to-head league as strong as this one if there's room for an overall player. Because I used to be an overall player, and I gave that up because I went cash chasing in this league.
Yeah, look, and you're right. You're not the only one who. So Josh Horton, born to form, who he ripped through first grade last year, he was also a preliminary finalist. He used to be an overall player as well, similar to you, and he was doing that for a bunch of years. And then when he started putting money into these head-to-head comps, it changes the way you look at the game a little bit, and you stop buy planning, for instance, and you start planning around missing those games anyway. So look, it's an interesting one. I like the Blake Nichols thing. I think he's a big chance to go down again. And like if you watch over the last 2 years, mate, the dude swung for the fence hard, and sometimes it pays off in a big way, and sometimes it's just horrific. And last year, let's be honest, reserve grade wasn't super strong last year. Third grade seemed to be where a lot of the power came from. Second grade kind of got lost because obviously we added a new grade, and that might happen again with fourth and fifth grade. We just don't know. Um, but yeah, I think Blake's a really good shot to go down. The other guy that I think is a big chance of going down is Dale Laidlaw. So Dizzy Dazzlers, who's been around for a little while. And I'll tell you why. Dale's had this thing. You would have been in it when he finished second 3 years in a row.
Yeah. I wanted him to win dude, I really did.
So it was just one of those things like, surely he's going to get one. And it just didn't happen. So he went loss. Since that, he went loss, 6th, 10th, 14th. So it's like it is steadily getting worse and worse for the big man. So is he going to rebound? I just have no idea, but big chance to go down. Look, while we're
don't
here,
disagree.
While we're here, mate, we'll have a very quick look at some of the second graders. Obviously Luke Mackey, who is a minor premiership, and he's, went to the finals last year in second grade. He hasn't won a finals game. So I like him to get promoted this year and probably win reserve grade. I like Damien Phoenix and Steve Hansen to both drop again from seconds to thirds.
Ooh, tell me why. That's a big call.
Look, Damien, he just doesn't pay enough attention, and you can't be buying and then selling and then rebuying players every single week. The dude literally is the buyback scheme. Like he'll buy a guy, sell a guy, buy a guy, and it's just like, where's the money? Steve, I don't know if he was locked in last year, but really bad season, even for his standards, and he's an average-ish player. So I think if he has a bit of a hangover, he'll go down again as well.
Right.
Third grade, look, there's a couple of new guys in there. We've got Ewan Bauer, and he comes out of the Martin Big School. So he might be a little bit more overall, but pedigree's there. So I like him. Along with Graham Marlowe, who is Democracy Manifest, and he was a commissioner last year, but he just missed promotion like 9th or 10th. So I like him to go up. And again, I like Ted Bates, T-Banger, and Benito Kairos Salsamana to do the double drop because they went drop from first grade, drop to the second grade. They're now in thirds. When you
I didn't look at this, but did you see what the lower scores of second grade were compared to the higher scores of third grade in terms of overall score? So I should have looked at it. I didn't look.
I had a look at obviously from last year doing the stats and all that kind of stuff, and you have a look at the MVP, which is kind of a good one for the overall stuff. And the top 10 of the MVP were 5 first graders and 5 third graders.
Yeah.
So that's out of 60. The bottom 10 were 3 first graders, 6 reserve graders, and 1 third grader. So the bottom was quite high in third grade. Now that would have shifted. That would have shifted a little bit now that the top 8 have gone into resis. But you just never know. You just never know. And you know what? I might be wrong. You might get a guy like Teddy who just rebounds. The problem is Teddy. He follows the Panthers and then picks all the guys who are not named Nathan Cleary. So,
but here's the thing with it, right? You sort of raise a good point. If you haven't got your finger on the pulse every week, you drop pretty quick, like real quick. Like come Tuesday when I'm picking up my daughter from school, I'm getting in that car park 20 minutes early because I pick her up at 2:20, and I know team lists drop at 2:00. So I'm having a look at that team list every Tuesday before I come home and make some trades or do whatever I want. But that's where my head's at. And if you haven't got, I guess, that general borderline nutcaseness towards it, then and you just want to do it on a Friday night and just have a look at the team list and see what's happening, then you will drop pretty quick.
Yeah. Look, and then obviously we've got 4th and 5th grade who are basically all new guys. I know a couple of them. Josh Kearns, Elite FC in 4th grade. He's pretty good. I've played against him a couple of times. Adzi Porter and White Line Fever. He's the commissioner there. It looks like there's a couple of guys down there like Callum Reed who can play a bit. Josh Newman's got some interesting people. He's got his back. Machu Rikiana. So they'll all look interesting. We've got a couple of guys who are pretty new in 4th grade. So they might find out how really hard it is. And then obviously 5th grade is similar. We've got the Doran brothers, which is Kane and his brother Jesse, and they're 2 young bucks who are pretty keen on themselves, and they're pretty. They want the prize money to go up, but you've got to move through the grades for that a little bit. And then like guys like Aaron Jorgensen, who was a model in Clio, I've been told by Dale Laidlaw, one of his mates. Right, so that'll be in. Thanks for that. I just want to thank Goodnight Gamma Light for stepping in, which is Johnny Masters. He's our commissioner as well. We've got a couple of cool guys like Simon Wu, who's really locked in and really good to talk to. And his mate, the Frenchie, which is Frank Roguiez. I don't know, mate. You would know French names more than me, so.
Yeah, all right. We'll see how we go. Of course, Frenchie rugby league is about as big in France as it is in Wales, right? So we'll see how we go.
No, fair enough. All right. Look, let's go. We'll go straight into round one in Vegas. Yeah, I'm going to bring up the team list on the share here, just so that we can have a look.
Go on, I'll do the same as well. So we're matching, mate.
Yeah, cool.
I think I've got most of it down anyway. But
all right, so we've got here. We look at the first team list, which is obviously you got the Raiders against my Warriors. Look, not any huge surprises. You mentioned KO Weeks at fullback, and if he was if he got named, he'd be an interesting one, mate.
Yeah, I had him in for a long time. I consider fullback one of the more higher scoring positions. I thought his transition from 7 to 1 on a more permanent basis might do well. He's a strong runner. He seems to have, from attributes wise, he seems to have everything you needed to be a good Supercoach player. Until I looked at the scores. So I went on. Right. So I like I said, and then when he went on that bloody 130-meter run, half of it sideways and the other half of it forwards, like in the trial, I thought, okay, yeah, I'm quite happy here. I picked the winner. And then when I looked at last year's stats, the bulk of his scores actually came when he played 7. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he kicked goals for a bit as well. Is that right?
I think he did for a little while, yeah. So obviously when Jamal was injured, and Jared Croker was still sniffing around a bit last year as well.
Yeah, and then his lower end of his scores actually came when he was at fullback. In the one bit of prep I did do, so when he played at fullback, he got a 41, a 42, a 56, 189, a 55, a 13, and a 34. I think there's another 30 in there somewhere as well. So the higher end of the scores actually came when he was.
Yeah. Are you there? Hello? Oh, we might have lost Pete. Doesn't matter. When he jumps back in, we'll get him. Oh, yep. No, we're back. Here he is. Yep, we're still going. Like nothing changed. Like nothing happened.
Yeah.
We move on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So basically, what I was saying, I don't know where we cut off there, but he was saying it actually seems like he's an overpriced fullback from what his scores suggest. Now, I think you can go Gasbusters, but I'm just not willing to have a punt on him yet now. Not anymore, anyway.
Yeah, look, I think Raiders have the wrong game style for a high scoring fullback. That's just my opinion. Kyle Weeks is in there now. I thought Rapana did his best work when he was on the wing, which is a weird one. And then the guys that have been in there, like Sebastian Chris, I think they've played Hopewadi there maybe once or twice, but they just don't score well at fullback, and it's got something to do with the way they structure their team. They're very forward based, and they don't hit out the back a lot. Hudson Young gets a lot of ball on the edge, and with Zach Hosking on the other edge, they're just going to do that even more because they're both really good line hitters. And yeah, so Kyle Wicks is a no for me. Obviously, Savelio Tamale's got Hopper's spot. I think a few people will have him. Thoughts, Pete?
Yeah, I don't mind it. Look, every year, this is just the way I play. Just to try and get that complete bottom dollar in. There's a couple of words. I suppose you could classify them as nuts because you've got a squad and you're never going to play them anyway. But the way I try and structure it is people that I think are going to play later on in the year, so you don't have to potentially make that trade. They're already in there. And I'm semi-successful with that tactic. But I think this applies to him because he's going to get the first grade or the first crack. Even if he drops out after the second one, he's coming back at some point this season, barring an injury in New South Wales Cup or training or whatever, which every single player has got that risk. He's coming back. So get him in your squad. If you don't play him, don't play him. If you want to play him in the first game, run the risk. I might. I don't know yet. But either way, it's better than getting a bottom dollar winger that you hope is going to play, which is what I do, rather than not.
Yeah. Look, before we get to the big ticket items for the Canberra Raiders team, I want to have a quick chat about Owen Paddy, the hooker. So obviously he's got Danny Levi's spot. And it's an interesting one because Tom Starling is starting. But we all know Ricky Stewart's a bit of a weird dude, and Tom Starling is an impact hooker. So thoughts that Owen Paddy might start and whack out about 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah, maybe. But Danny Levi did the same last year, and his scores were were horrible, apart from bagging tries.
Yeah.
So I don't see why Owen Paddy is going to be any different. Starling's got that bit of spark, but I actually had him a couple of years ago. But my sole dependency, which I was lucky on, I'll admit that, was him giving a short ball to Tarpany and getting those try assist points. And then when he built up his cash, I'd flog him. I think Owen Paddy, I think you've sort of got the same. If you want him because he's bottom dollar, cool. Wouldn't play him. And then hopefully he gets a couple of try assists, giving it to the big horse or Tarpany or whoever, or ducks over himself, gets a couple of price rises, and then as soon as he's got those price rises, get rid of him. That's the only way I bring him in. But again, it's in exchange for who, right? So if you want him, who's he replacing? So you've got Sandon Smith, that I presume everyone's going to play as their backup 9. So then who are you running at the other 9? Because there are more options there as well. So I don't like him at all, really.
Fair enough. All right. Look, we'll get to the.
Tell me why you like him. Tell me why you like him.
We'll wait until we have a look at my team, and then I'll explain it.
Okay.
Look at the big ones. Corey Horsburgh's in, starting. Might have been a topic of a conversation when a certain someone else was in the game, in the chat. Anyway, he's made his way in. It looks like he's going to get minutes based on what you're looking at from, the Canberra Raiders bench. You like Horse, you're going to have him. Is he worth it? He makes sense. That's
no-brainer, starting. Solid. Didn't have a good year last year. Had a really, really, really great year the year before. Don't see any reason why he can't do the same.
He was an Origin player, and he made sense Super Coach wise. He was averaging something like 65, and there were games where he was punching out 70 minutes, 75 minutes. I know he's not at the lock, but Morgan Smithies is a middle forward. He's not a true lock anyway, so they may sub him.
Yeah. So what's he worth? Like 350 dual position for a pedigree player? Jeez, if you don't play him, you don't super coach.
He should be up around the 95% owned. He should be like in everyone's team. It makes no sense to not have him. The other one, mate, which is a little more interesting, is Zach Hosking, who is got real pedigree, got injury problems, but mate, when he plays, he's looked real good for Penrith and Canberra. You like him? Is he in?
Yeah, he's in. He's in my team. I really like him. The only thing that makes me nervous about it is what Ricky Stewart does with the last minute potential changes. Or if I was expecting him to play 80, I'm looking at the bench. Still think there's that possibility, but without being 100% sure. But for 530k-ish, I'm willing to take the risk.
Yeah, look, Simi Sasagi on the bench is scary because he's a nice edge option. And Simi Sasagi I don't think he'll play in the middle. Hosking has played at lock and in the middle at times in his career, but he's a bit of a smaller forward, so he doesn't make a lot of sense to play in there. I don't know. I don't think he's in my team at the moment, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I do like him, and he's kind of exactly what you want out of an edge back rower in Supercoach. He gets through a ton of work. He hits a short line like nobody's business, and the dude scores tries, which is kind of what you want. We'll sashay over to the Warriors. Look, out of note, Chanel Harris-Tavita's got the spot, not Tamari Martin, which is a little interesting for me, considering Tamari Martin was pretty good for super coaches last year. But the big one is obviously there's no Dallin Watini-Zelezniak, but Tane Tuapiki is not an option in my opinion. You agree?
Yeah, 100%, mate. There's better options at the moment to consider it for me.
Yeah, and the other one is obviously Rocco Berry's injured, which means Ali Tua'a is in the centers. But mate, the dude is overpriced, and you can't pick him. He's sitting up at around.
Look, he's not in my team, and there's a. I don't know if you want to discuss. I'm happy to, but there's what I think right now is a better option for a similar price, which is RTS.
Yep.
Yeah. So
we can talk about that right now.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So if you're two Warriors players, both playing center wing, both roughly the same price, RTS does his best work super coach wise, even though he's only got 2 games to go off. But even in theory and principle, on the wing in comparison to center, his highest scores last year were at fullback and winger. So he's an underpriced winger.
Well,
who you know is going to play.
It's the Zach Lomax theory, right? Zach Lomax is a below average center for a long time. Plays on the wing last year. Is the best center wing in the comp.
Yeah.
So it's like it makes sense that Roger's there. I like Roger. He's not in my team at the moment, but that's something we'll talk about as well. For the forwards, it's the same. It's the same for a lot of it. I don't think James Fisher-Harris is a real Supercoach relevant player, whereas Mitchell Barnett is. So if you want to spend 800 grand on the front row, I'll be my guest, but I won't be picking Mitch Barnett up. It'll be a later kind of year thing for me. And then you just don't know what their rotation is going to look like. Wade Egan's a scary player, in my opinion. Your opinion, Pete, about Wade Egan?
Yeah, I don't like him, and I'll digress slightly because the two things link is I'm actually considering, and he's been in and out of my team, is Aaron Clark. And the reason why is because he's going to do a fair chunk of work in the middle. He'll probably come off and get spelled for Walker. And then I reckon he'll come on towards the end of the game, or at some point at least to spell Egan. Towards the back end of last year, where Egan started off at 80 minutes, he obviously plays busted up and gets busted up a lot. And then towards the end of the year, his minutes dropped to 60, 65. And I think Aaron Clark picks up some of those minutes. He's underpriced for if he was to continue on my theory, let's call it, and his dual position as well. So he's tempting for me. I don't know if I'm going to go there yet because there's a lot of players around that price mark in that position, but it's tempting.
Yeah, look, just a bit of background on that. Tohu Harris retires, and then Freddie Lussick and the other hooker, I can't remember what his name is, they're not in the squad, which means that Dylan Walker's a lock. Won't play hooker, can, but won't, from what we've seen. Aaron Clark has deputized at hooker for the Titans. He's turned into more of a middle forward in the last year or so, but you're right. That's what it smells like to me. That Aaron will come off, Dylan will go on at 13, and then Aaron will come on and spell Wade. Or, Wade will get a HIA, and then Aaron will go on there anyway. Jackson Ford's a back rower, middle forward, and Valmunga and Halasima, they're both middle forwards. So, cool. Look, that's game one. We'll move on to game two, which is the Panthers and the Sharks. We'll start with the Sharks, mate, because their team's a little more interesting. Sam Stonestreet's a big one for me. He comes in. Sione Katoa looks like he's going to be missing for a while, and I think Sam Stonestreet was 10 tries in 7 games at the end of the year last year.
Love it. Just don't know for no logical reason. I don't know if I'm going to get him in because everything screams that you should. Big body, finishes a lot on a wing where the guys like to attack. I just don't know why I haven't got him in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And look, the Sharks are a weird team. I actually felt like the Sharks were a little more dangerous as an attacking side when Talakai played center because they seemed to spread the ball a little more. Ronaldo Motale was a little more dangerous. And for some of them reason, it affected the other side as well because when Kyle Iro came in, they scored less points. They probably defended a little better, but it made me feel like they didn't get as much ball to their outside backs as they should have. Because Kyle Iro is a nice structured center. He hits the ball up well, takes good runs. He's actually a really great base center and there aren't a lot of those, but he hindered Mulatalo in particular, and for some reason affected Will Kennedy. So it's a weird one for me. So while Ero's there, I don't like many of the Sharks' backs. Moving, we won't talk about Hines yet, mate. We'll leave that for when we have a look at my team. I've just rubbished Hines. I've rubbished Hines for about a week in the chat anyway, and then I've gone and picked him up. So that's a funny one. Mate, Adam Fanor-Blake is the best attacking forward in the game. Do you start with him? Yes or no? Just a quick one. No. Same. I'm with you. Can't afford it. It doesn't make sense. He won't go up. So you'll look for the money to get him eventually. The one thing about Adam that I do like is doesn't play Origin. So you want him by then. Look, their back row is basically the same it's always been. Nikora and Wilton are pretty good. McInnes is good. And their bench nothing screams you need anything to do with their bench. They won't get the minutes, and they're not the attacking superstars that Tyron Wishart and that are. So we move on. Panthers. Look, Casey McLean getting that edge spot. I like it. I think he showed really good promise, and we all know what that Panthers wingers are guns. Casey McLean, yes or no for you?
He's in.
He's in.
As it stands, he's in.
You like him?
Yeah, I do. I think he showed everything that we wanted from a super coach player, and now he's gone from the centre to the wing, which is a similar argument to what we made earlier. More potential points, more potential runs, more potential tackle breaks. Underpriced for a winger, for super coach was.
Yeah, look, it makes a lot of sense. I think Dylan Edwards is a good option at fullback still if people are trying to get something a little different. The dude's guaranteed 70. Mate, big one is no Blaze Talangi and Jack Cole comes in. I had a look at Jack Cole a bit earlier today, and he's an interesting pick without making me feel like he needs to be gotten. I feel like if you want to take the risk with a player who could make a little bit of coin, I don't think he'll make a lot. And if Blaze Talangi gets anything out of his system, he'll be there. Is there any point risking for Jack Cole, Pete?
I haven't looked at him for basically every reason that you've just described. I think Blaze is still a little bit underdone by all accounts when he gets in Denver or he gets up to Ireland, probably Blues standard, which I can't imagine be long, bearing in mind he's brought him in and they're paying good money for him. I think it's just a matter of time. Unless you get him in, he gets a few try assists, makes a price rise, you get lucky, but it's a risk and it's not one I want to take.
Look, the rest of the Panthers team, it's a must of the Panthers. You're not picking their forwards because unless Isaiah Yeo is the outsider, and if you have the money to pick him up later on, he makes sense. But he'll play Origin. He missed all their buys. You're looking at missing him for 5 games, and we've got a 19-week season, so that hurts. Look, the one that kind of I do want to talk about, which is affected a little bit, is Luke Garner goes to the centers. I thought he was going to be a shot at that second row spot instead of Sorensen. He's obviously a non-option now, but I thought he was definitely worth a look if he started in the second row, along with Isaiah Papali, who's a non-option now.
I penciled in that position without knowing who the player was. And even though he's I've talked myself out of him, but for a moment there, Sorensen was in. Not because of last year's performance, but from the years before performance. So I thought he's got it in him. He's a very quick second row. And I think if Cleary's firing, he'll know how to find him. But it's a risk. It's a quite look. He's only just over 400k. So out of all those, I think he's the cheapest.
Yep.
But I don't think I'm going to go there, even though I'm tempted.
No, fair enough. Cool. Look, that's the 2 games. We have a quick look at it and things like that. Just quickly, out of the 4 teams, pick 2 guys that you must have that are playing this weekend, and 2 guys that you're probably going to leave alone that other people might get.
Well, for previous reasons that discussed, I'm leaving Weeks alone, but he is still owned by about 12% of teams, I think. I presume it's that second 5/8 spot, which is a risk, but I've already spoken about that. Isaiah Yeo, people are talking about on the chat, but I wouldn't go near him. I think he's only got downside at this stage. I don't think he's got upside, especially with Cleary back. I can't believe we haven't spoken about him yet, because it's just a no-brainer. But Metcalf's in, and he's been in since the start, and he's not going anywhere. And I think he's going to have a belting season. I think he'll go hard.
Yeah. Anyone else that you think has to be in? Someone like a Hosking or...
Hoskins in. I don't know if he has to be in, but he has to be in. But as of today, and only as of today, I'm leaning towards RTS, because at that price, with his stats in the back 3 position, he's very underpriced with a massive potential. The only concern is if he's playing with the current halves, I don't know how good they play together, and is he going to get a lot of ball? That's it. Otherwise, he's got the base to be a no-risk player. It's just a case of you're spending 500 grand on someone a little bit more, and is there better options? Maybe, but he could have the potential to go massive.
Yeah, look, I think he's on the right side of he's playing left side winger, which is the right side of the field, because that's Metcalf's side. So I like that. For me, mate, I think Tamale, the winger from Raiders, I think he's a no-brainer for everyone. Bottom dollar, get him in. He'll play a couple of games to start the year, and then he'll be back, like you said. So I think he must be in everyone's team. And he's playing this weekend, which points on the border is always a thing. And yeah, like we're all looking at guys like Purdue and those kind of guys to probably fill up our center wing stocks. But there's no guarantee they actually play. Like, it's not a guaranteed thing. We have the team lists for this week. We know who's playing. So I put Tamale in there. Look, the other person that I think, obviously we spoke about it and it's a no-brainer, is the horse. He's got to be in everyone's side. He should be in 99% of Supercoach sides. And the people who are racist against redheads are not picking him. The guys
That's what it is, though, right? It's some stubborn New South Wales fans that just don't want him or something along those lines. But I look, yeah, you're mental if you haven't got it.
The guys I've left off my list, I'm actually not going anywhere near Isaac Tungo. I think his floor and his ceiling are the same. So I think he's basically priced exactly where he's supposed to be. So I don't think he's worth the risk. And the Panthers are slow starters notoriously, so they'll defend up. The other player that I think is going to be in some people's teams. Good night, darling. They're going to be in some people's teams, but I'm not going to go anywhere near, is the combination of Barnett or Adam Fanor-Blake. They're too expensive. They're props. Let's really think about that. Cool. So that's a bit of a breakdown of the teams this weekend. We'll go into
I agree with what you said, especially around the props piece. The props, which I'm sure you'll speak about next week or whoever, is almost a set and lock, and one of them being the horse, the other one being May. So what's the point in even looking at the others?
Let's have a look, mate. You know what? This is a great sachet. Let's tear apart my team.
Yeah, okay. Bring it up.
So here we go.
I think we're pretty similar, right?
Anyway. Probably. Me and you. I mean, I did copy some of your stuff anyway. Look, I've gone Sandon Smith and Owen Paddy at hooker. Sandon Smith is going to be in everyone's team, probably as the backup. I don't want to spend any money at hooker. I think it's a shit position. Since the game has evolved, players like Cook and Farah and that don't exist anymore. So if you're picking a hooker, it's Harry Grant and you're paying the most expensive price in the world. That's just my opinion. Obviously in the prop forward, we spoke Terrell May off the bench for the Roosters and has a price tag of 600 grand, which theory dictates he should get more expensive now he's starting. And the horse, I've got Royce Hunt and a filler there at the moment, Hamish Stewart. Now you'll notice that basically outside of Terrell May, my front row and hookers are worth nothing. And the flexes kind of calls that a little bit. Comments on the front row hooker stuff, mate?
Similar. So just for context, I had Watson and he was a set and forget until the trials. And then I watched them play and I came very quickly to turn around and say, he's not offering anything. I wouldn't go near Grant for exactly the reasons you described. So it was either Connor Watson or a cheapie. And from what I saw of them play and the way they were playing, I thought, might as well go a cheapie. And then I can spend my money on somewhere else that's going to be more valuable for me because I'm not sure Watson's going to do it at 9. So like the theory, I think there's a few players you could probably pick there, like Corey Pay, that Rabbitohs, what's his name? The Rabbitohs.
Mamazolis.
Yeah, he's in there somewhere. Smith's a starting 5'8" who kicks goals, so he's a no-brainer. So yeah, just it's essentially same theory, maybe a different name. Set and forget for now. May's going to be in everyone's side if they know Supercoach. He's underpriced. Some games he played 80 minutes, some games he played 10. He runs out, tackle breaks, offloads. He's even got a try in him. So underpriced for what he is. He's 2 years ago, Payne Haas, in my opinion. The horse we spoke about, and then for the rest, find a couple of cheapies and whack them in there. Doesn't really matter who they are at this stage. So I don't disagree with anything you've done at the moment.
Yeah, cool. Look, here's the first contentious start. Well, where you need to actually make decisions, in my opinion. I've gone middle all the way, or low. So I've got Hosking, who we spoke about, and obviously, we like his attributes. John Bateman comes into my side. Helium Lukey's gone, basically, for the year, probably. I don't think with Fuyaki gone, I think the Cowboys are going to sit him in that second row position for 80 minutes and leave him there. I watched a bit of Kobe Hetherington over the weekend. And while I don't think he is going to score 1,000 points, I think he's going to be worth it. He'll make 150K, and then you can move him out. Tina Musuyali, yeah, he's got the buy. Don't care. Dude was worth 800 grand when he was playing properly. I can't see any reason why he can't get somewhere near that. Alex Seyfarth has locked in a spot, along with Gosweski. I hate Gosweski as a super coach player, but starting back row for the Broncos, probably 70 to 80 minutes a game. I'm not leaving him out. Thoughts on back row?
So my thoughts are, you've gone for mid-range players with potential upside and cheapies with potential upside, but maybe looking into the 150K range. Now, before I get into the piece, I guess I got to ask a question: is why have you overlooked someone, at least one, of either Katoa or a Crichton or a fill in the blank, a Yo, or even a Fafita? Why haven't you gone at least one of those words?
Okay, so there is a reason. And if you have a look at my team as we move on, I've got Cleary and Hines, Galvin and Metcalf, Turbo and Ponga, Garrick and Dylan Lucas. So basically, I've got so much money in my halves, fullback, and center wing. I just cannot afford the players. Just cannot. Also, I don't know what happened then. Yeah, I just can't afford the players. I had Katoa in my team for a long time, but after arguing that I was never going to use Hines and he didn't make any sense in the chat for about a day, 24 hours later, I had Hines in my team. And the reason was, and it always comes down to this for me, if he goes badly, I can downgrade easily and then spend money elsewhere. If he goes well, I can't pick him back up. And you may have said that to me a couple of days ago.
You beat me to it. I was about to drill you for that. You beat me to it.
Yeah, so that's I don't have a lot of money spent in my forwards, and that's just the way it is because I don't see them as extremely high scoring players anymore. David Feeder is an outlier when he's on, but outside of David Feeder, even a guy like even a Katoa, they have their good days and then they have days where they're 50. You know what I mean? But they never have days where they're 150. Cleary and Hines, in my opinion, they've won games on their own in Supercoach. They definitely have. The outlier for that is obviously I've got Lachlan Galvin. And when I watch him in the NRL, not only does he pass the eye test, but he oozes Supercoach points because he literally, if there are two buttons and the one button says, take the easy way, just be steady, and then the other button is go for it, go for it, go for it. He presses that button every single fucking time. You know what I mean? So that's why I love Galvin, and I've got him in with Metcalf, who everyone's probably going to have at some stage because he's a nice cheap and he's the guy at the Warriors. But he oozes a bit of, Supercoach class for me. You've done some looking at your halves, mate. Cleary and Hines for you?
For exactly the reasons that were discussed in the chat. It was, and we've sort of touched on here. And just for clarity, the reason why I asked you the question was I've had the same principle with my second row. I've tried to go for good second rows with potential upside to spend my money elsewhere, because once upon a time, second rows used to be you stack the team with second rows, and it's not that anymore. It's centre wings. So I've done exactly the same principle. I've got Bateman in mind, and I don't like it, but he's in there. Very, very similar setup. I don't like Hetherington. I don't think I'm going to get him in. But principle-wise, exactly the same. I had Katoa for a long time. He's not in anymore. I had Crichton in there for a bit. He's not in it anymore. Feeder, I haven't even looked at. Yo, I've never even looked at. Same principle. Just curious, because I think that's a lot of people's mindset as the game has progressed. So yeah, it was just interesting to see. That's all. Cleary, set and forget. He only plays 16 games a year approximately, but I'm willing to take the punt because, as you said, he can win a game on his own. Hines is undervalued compared to the player that he can be. Same principle that I mentioned. That if he doesn't perform, if he doesn't perform, you go straight down to a Duffy, and you've got yourself 500k in the bank to spend elsewhere. If he does perform and Duffy doesn't, and I'm using him as an obvious example, then you've got to find 500k for something, which is at this point of the season, no one's going around with 500k in their bank.
Oh, and remember, not so long ago, Nicholas Hines was worth $1.1 million in Supercoach.
And he's hit 180 every year.
Yeah. So
he's
a monster. 6 goals. He is the guy at the Sharks. You always talk about, you know, when you talk Supercoach, you always talk about you need the guy from a team. Every team's got a guy. And at the Sharks, the guy is Nicholas Hines. At Manly, the guy is Tom Trbojevic. You know, they're kind of the ones that you want, which I'll talk about when I look at my centre wings. Just out of a bit of clarity, mate, who have you got at 5'8"?
So I have got Dewey as my backup because I liked him and I got rid of Weeks and I really wanted Dewey in there, and Metcalf. Metcalf for me he's a no-brainer. He's running 5'8", he was playing 7, kicks goals, a lot of the kicking duties, a lot of those restarts are going to come from him. I don't see any downside there. In a position where I don't exactly think it's red hot with talent at the moment. Munster maybe had a good trial. Dylan Brown possibly if he's back up with Moses and he's firing. Otherwise, but not at this stage of the season. It's a less risk play for me.
Yeah, look, Dylan Brown's a guy that you pick up at Origin because he plays for New Zealand, basically. And then you hold him basically through to the finals because he's 60 average. Look, obviously we have a look at the big one. Actually, we'll go to fullbacks before we do centre wings. So I've got probably the most common fullback combination, which is Turbo, Ponga, and Iongi. Turbo starting fullback, Ponga in the flex, Iongi on the bench. Iongi at $232,000 at fullback. It's almost. It was almost madness that people thought about not playing him because the potential to make $400,000 in the first 8 weeks. Can you make an argument for not having him?
Yeah, I can, even though I'm not following that argument, but I can make it. So there's 2 schools of thought. Who do you think is going to go better if he gets a starting gig? Is Duffy or Iongi? So if you're playing Nathan like he's my mate, never met the bloke. If you're playing Cleary or Hines, right? And you want Duffy and you like him, then he can get that flex piece. And then Iongi comes out. But if you think Iongi, who's in my opinion got the higher potential, he obviously comes in. The other, it's very, very left field. But the other school of thought is there going to be a fullback that's not quite a high price, but let's just call it undervalued, that you think is going to tear up? You could bring him in and just go gangbusters straight out the block. And there's 2 players to me that spring to mind. Yes, for disclaimer, I'm not going this way. He's in my team. But there's Kinney and there's Walsh. Right. Yep. And Mitchell was in that bracket as a different bracket, but he's injured now, so he's irrelevant. But otherwise, I could make that argument. Yep. I think Walsh could potentially get unlocked by Hunt, and he could really add that extra strike power. Next thing you know, he's averaging 90 and he's not going to be a base player, but he's just breaking the line every single. And when I wasn't actually watching the last Titans game, I was listening to it. I was at work, and every second word from the commentator seemed to be Kinney. Kinney. He seemed to have a million touches of the ball.
Yeah, they
and
did
in
actually mention. They did actually mention that. I don't know if it was Cooper Cronk or someone said that when they watched the Titans, it felt like there were two of him on the field.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go then. Yeah. So maybe in an attacking style team, maybe he goes out there and kills it. And next thing you know, he's doing great because he's averaging 65, 70 at a, in a decent. No, he's not in a decent. In a better team than perhaps they were last year. Or you've got a Reece Walsh or a Kinney that's going out there and knocking out 80, 90, and hundreds every week for the first.
Yeah, look, I think that's amazing, and I think the Broncos in the last trial showed that they can turn it on if they want to. I just want to digress very slightly about the Latrell thing. Latrell was actually an outlier for me because even though he's expensive, I had this opinion that Wayne Bennett, a healthy Cody Walker, getting rid of some of their rubbish out of their locker room would make Latrell $1 million player in Supercoach. So I had this theory that I was going to play Latrell Turbo and Ponga and Duffy, and that made me want the three, big fullbacks, so to speak. I wasn't going to play Hines. But as soon as Latrell goes down, and look, everyone picks Turbo because he's a known commodity. Everything runs through him at Manly, 100-point player. He averages 85 a season, and it doesn't really look like he tries that much. Ponga tends to be the guy at the Knights, and for all intents and purposes, they look like they're just going to attack this year. They look like they're just going to go after every single game, and they're not going to give a crap about defending that much. They're going to go, we're going to score 30, catch us type thing, which I like because they don't have that defensive steel that Penrith has. But geez, if the kid that they've got at 6, the fullback, Sharp,
yeah, he's amazing.
I actually love that the way they're playing with him in the side. Dylan Lucas is a wide-ranging second rower. Best, Marju, Ponga, these kind of things are going to make the Knights relevant, which means that Ponga is probably a must as well. So that's the reasoning for fullback. I can't pick Teddy because the Roosters are rubbish. I don't care that he's probably going to do everything for him. Attacking stats are where it's at. And Dylan Edwards is a nice other option. I am also worried about Walsh and Kinney. I think if people pick them up and take the risk, they have the potential to hurt you. The issue at the Broncos is we don't know what Ben Hunt's going to look like in that lineup. So that's that. At the Titans, the issue that they have is they're turning into a little bit of what player is going to score well that week. And I'll give you my theory when we go and talk about centre wingers now. In my centre wing, I've got Garrick, I'm of the opinion that if you pick Turbo, you pick Garrick. Because it makes no sense not to have one without the other. They both score really well together. The averages of Turbo when he gets 100 and the average of Garrick when Turbo scores 100 is something like 80. So I like that. I've got obviously cheap guys, Toya, Purdue, Tamale. I've got Finau there from the Dragons who scored 5 tries. Yeah. If he bags a spot, cool. If not, I'll sub him out for another cheapie. I've got Lucas from your Knights, who looks like he's going to be on that left edge, and that's where they're going to go. So I like him. The outlier is Brimson. I've got Brimson, and I just want to talk about the Titans for a second. They've got Brimson, Kinney, Jaden Campbell, Brian Kelly, Philip Sami, Alafone Khan Pereira, and Jojo Fafita. And if you go back and actually have a look at their center wing scores, no one scores well together. So it's like you take a risk somewhere. I like Brimson if he stays at 6. If he plays anywhere else, I hate him. Because he's going to get his hands on the ball at 6 a lot, and I don't think he's going to play a lot of 1. Talk to me about what you think about the Titans' backs.
Similar. If Brinson plays 6, he's got a running mindset, but you can only get him at this stage at centre wing. I think he's got massive potential if he keeps that 6 jersey. In terms of the outside backs, I don't care. The reason why I don't care is because they've got to get the ball from somewhere. So even if they're bagging the try, then it'll either be Campbell or Kinney or Brimson giving them the try assist. If they're not getting them themselves, or likelihood is that Kinney's gone through a hole and just done it all himself anyway, or the same with Campbell. So I like that spine. I think that's one of the most attacking spines potentially in the NRL, and that's a big call. But I think it's up there. So even if they're not directly crossing the line, they're involved. So if you've got 2 out of those 3, you're bagging try. So unless you get the Fafita who just decides to scoot at the line or just bowl people over from 5 meters away, or potentially Tino to do something similar as well. But most of their points are coming from those 3 players. So even what's the average point scored a game these days? What is it? 20? I'm guessing. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain, mate, to be fair.
So let's I can say 4 tries, 24. I think it's more than that. You know that 3 of those tries are coming from those players.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, that's
pick two and run with it. The only thing that might put you off is bloody buying game 1, but I actually don't mind that. I wouldn't have them all. I'd have 1, maybe 2 of Titans players. But then as soon as you get that round 1 out of the way, you're laughing.
Yep, 100%, mate. Mate, do you mind if I show your team?
Knock yourself out. It's going to change anyway, because that's what I do. It'll probably change by the morning.
Cool. So you've got Pakes and Smith, like you said. Pakes is off the bench.
Well, you got to start inside 5'8". He'll play 80 minutes, and kicking goals. So his base is in his goal kicks, right? If they score, so it's basically a choice between 2. Smith's going to get the nod. It's not a big deal, to be honest.
Cool. Look, obviously we spoke about the front row, and yours is fairly similar to mine. Tino's in there instead of in the back row, which is cool. You've gone Preston, who when he was at his best, he was an 800k back rower. So you think he has probably got a little bit more to give?
Yeah, I do. I think he was starting to trend that way last year before I picked him up last year, and I was really like what I saw until he got injured again. He knows where the line is. He runs hard. Again, an undervalued. He's in my opinion, in that top few percentage of back rows in the game in terms of a super coach.
Yep.
But he's not priced that way.
Yeah. Look, the one that is probably a little scary is Hopgood, because we just don't know what Parrott are going to do. We don't know how they're going to ask him to play. But at his lethal best, he's a $900,000 back rower who offloads 10 times a game.
Look, mindset for me at the moment is if he's starting at 13, I don't see them doing anything really different within than what they've tried to do in the last couple of years, because they haven't got anybody else that has done anything different in that pack for him. Madison's still there, Lane's still there. Pick your bench. It's the same. So why are we potentially thinking that his role is going to be different to what it has been or wanted to be in the last 2 years?
Well, he did tail off at the end of last year, and it was based around he wasn't producing the offloads. Like someone had told him to lock it up. So it'll be interesting to see whether he goes back to his free-flowing ways.
Yeah, but did you watch him in the trial? He won. He was looking. He was looking. So I am running the risk that he is going to go back to his look. And
I mean, you're running the risk on Wednesday. You're running the risk on Wednesday, the week before the Para even play. So
yeah. But there's options there, right? So I could always change it around. But what else I got? Remind me.
So we keep looking. You've got Cleary, Hines, Metcalf. We spoke about. You've gone Dewey. Talk to me about Dewey. He'll probably play in the centres.
Yeah, but again, I'm a fan of a. Look, I've got him at 5'8", correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Again,
and he's 430k.
I like the saying, and I don't know why I like it, but in comparison to what Right. So who else am I going to bring? I like Dewey. I thought he looked strong on the ball. He had an offload on him and he's kicking goals again. Right. He's
Yep.
always got that potential if there's an injury to move back into the halves, if required, which generally means more points. I at another 5'8", with what options are out there available, I think he's one of the better options. To be honest,
Yeah.
he is one player I can say with confidence he won't be moving from my team.
Yeah, look, Dewey's obviously he's got injury history, and if I didn't have Galvin, I'd have Dewey. I like him, and he was a gun a couple of years ago, before injury took him. Look, in your center wing, you haven't spent a lot of money. Purdue, Toya, you've got Makasini in there, but you'll move him probably, I'd
Yeah, I'll
say, for
move him.
Tamale. I'd say he'll go for Tamale. You'll bring him in. Dylan Lucas is going to be popular because he's a hardworking back row who tends to score highly. You've got Mars U, and I don't see any issues with Mars U. The dude, when Newcastle are on, he scores. So he's their strike winger out there, and he's probably a little undervalued because of his poor finish to the season. Casey McLean we've spoken about. You've got Jack Howarth in there at 430K.
So for me at the moment, it's a toss up, right? And it's almost a combination. So it'll either be Bateman with Brimson or Howarth with Hopgood.
Yep.
They're the two choice money wise.
Yep.
So I'm
and then
trying
you
to
just got to, yeah.
Yeah, I've got to work out what combination out of those two that I want. Toya's, I think he'll start, even though he missed every single tackle on the weekend. I still think he'll keep his gig and hopefully bag something. Purdue, he actually looked quite good. I thought he was good. Maju, I think he'll do better because that left side looks better. So
Yep.
he will be the result of that. A little bit concerned that Fletcher Sharp would like to run the ball a bit more, so he might not get as much, but as long as Ponga gets it, he'll get it. Only concern I have with Dylan Lucas is if there's any injury whatsoever to Best, which he's a centre. He's back to a centre, and he could be staying there for a bit. So that concerns me a bit, but he's starting the second row, so I'll run with that. For me, it's just that combo. I actually really like Brimson, but I also really like Hopgood. I can't do both. I've got to work my way around it. And I don't really want to start the season with money in the bank, because if it all works out well with Hines, great. I'll do everything else will go according to plan, tickety boo. If Hines doesn't work out, that's when I'll get money.
No, I like it. I like it a lot. And obviously Ponga, Turbo, and Yongi, we've already spoken about that as well. So we're pretty similar, mate. We've got both got the same kind of ideas. And I think a lot of people are the same as us.
Well, judging by the ownership online, there's, put it this way, out of the, I think I had 13 of the top 15, with the exclusion of that New Zealand second rower, Jack Bird, because he's not going to start. Otherwise, if he starts, he's in. So,
yeah. And Laban is the one that you're talking about, who didn't even make the bench. So
yeah, Jesse McLean's still up there a bit, but I would love him to start. But that's what I'm saying. Just one small little, what seems minor change from Jesse McLean to Casey McLean, and I got to turn half my team upside down.
Yep. No, fair enough. Alrighty. Mate, that's basically all we got today. So thank you for jumping on and talking scratch with me. Just before I let you go, mate, you going to captain anyone or vice captain anyone this weekend?
I'll vice probably Cleary, and then I'll captain either Turbo. To be honest, it's boring, but that's what everyone's going to do. But I don't care. It's too early.
Yeah.
It's too early. Whatever. Captains, they'll run themselves for the first few weeks, and then we'll see what happens after that. You'll start getting a feel of who's doing what and everything else.
No, I'm with you, man. I think if anybody VCs anyone, Cleary, Hines, they make the most sense. Look, you could take the punt and be a lunatic and put the VC on someone like RTS, but it's round one, so let them feel their way. I am very interested to kind of see what some of our question mark players do. Kyo Weeks is a big watch, because you're right, he's a fullback who is allowed to be selected at 6, and there was a couple of years ago where there was a rule that if they played at fullback but were able to be selected anywhere else, he picked them.
Mm.
You know, guys like Hammer, Chance Klokstad, even a guy like who's the Bulldogs fullback at the moment? Connor Tracy. Like those kind of guys, even if they were average fullbacks, they were better than average centre wings, better than average sixes. So yes, we've both spoken about weaknesses as one, but geez, if he gets it right, are you really not going to say? Are you not going to say hello to 70 points at 6?
Yeah. Oh, look, I'll take it every day. But like I've got Dewey, I think he's capable of it. Put it this way, I think the Tigers will do better than they did last year. I don't know how well they do, but I think they'll do better, which should mean they've got more points, which should mean he should grab some of those points somewhere along the line.
They should. They should do better than 17th, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing, I don't know who's coming. If someone asked me, gun to my head, who's coming bottoms, I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't have a clue.
You'd tell him who the worst Supercoach scoring player was, but
yeah, I know. Yeah, I can't pick one at the moment. So you probably have to go to Dragons, but I don't think I'm right there. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, agree. Really boring for the viewers, mate. But I agree with a lot of what you said tonight. Really annoying. Never mind.
Yeah.
Don't worry. What happens when you jump on my bandwagon?
Yeah, look, we'll have some arguments later on, mate. Don't worry. When we're both down the bottom of the table, we'll surely argue about. Well, I told you this and I told you that. So, I'm not worried.
Yeah, but it's weird, because I don't care if I win or not. I just don't want to get relegated. That's my goal, just not get relegated. I'll be fuming if I get relegated. I'm fucking angry. Oh, dude, I'll get a divorce. But anyway.
All right, guys, that's us. Thanks for joining us. Thank you very much for jumping on, Pete. I know you're a busy man.
Mate, anytime. I love the shit for some reason. I'm a weirdo.
And guys, we will see you next week, and we'll get a couple of different people on the show. Thanks, Pete. I'll see you later, brother.
Take it easy, brother. Thank you, mate.